Okay, welcome to the August 6th meeting of the Citizen Review Board of Syracuse. It is about 5:37 and we have a quorum, so I'm calling the meeting to order. First item for board action is approval of the July meeting minutes. Any comments on the, before I do that, I'd like to welcome members of the public. I think we have Joe Bennett and a call-in user 4. I'm not sure who that is. Call-in user 4, can you identify yourself? Unmute yourself. Should be an unmute button at the bottom of your screen, a microphone that would be red. Okay, I guess I can't do that. Okay, approval of July meeting minutes. Any comments or questions about the July meeting minutes, which you got in your emails a couple days ago? Okay, could we have a motion to approve those minutes? And welcome to Cliff Ryan. Lori makes the motion. Cynthia seconds it. All in favor of approving the July minutes?
I'm here.
All right, welcome, Cliff. Okay. Any opposed to the July minutes? Is someone trying to speak? Do we know? Call-in user 4 is unmuted. I think call-in user 4 just...
I hear some static.
Okay. Can you hear yourself, Cliff, if you're not speaking?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
You said you got some static. It's gone now.
Okay.
Okay. Chairperson's report. I'm going to make some comments on the mayor's executive order and a letter from Chief Buckner. I'll give you a very brief overview of where things stand right now with the protests in the city and Spark. You all were aware that back at the beginning of July, Spark had met with the mayor and the superintendent and the deputy mayor and the police chief, presented them with a list of demands. The mayor responded about 2 weeks later with a long memo responding to each demand in a way that he basically agreed with most of the demands, but several of them he said agree with clarifications. And the People's Agenda folks did not feel that that was adequate. Last Saturday, they held a large rally downtown in which they were basically, the speakers were pretty much demanding that all their demands be accepted as is. And there hasn't yet been a response to the mayor from that. So it's not clear what else is going to happen with the demands of the protesters. What the mayor did respond directly to earlier in the month, he sent out a memo, an executive order implementing several steps that the protesters had asked for. And one of them had to do with the right to know law, and which we had also endorsed. Just to be clear, CRB had endorsed 2 elements of the People's Agenda. One was the right to know law, which we had talked about several times over the last year. And the second was to develop legislation that would result in CRB's discipline decisions being enforced, whatever that might look like. So the mayor's executive order of June 19th had 16 points in it, had to do with several things that the CRB has been advocating, such as the Right to Know Act, revising the use of force policy, revising the body-worn camera policy, and getting more dashboard cameras, as well as a process to ensure compliance with the repeal of 50A. So there's several elements in the mayor's executive order that are things that the CRB has been working for years. Specifically, another thing that he included in the order was that the chief needed to respond to our disciplinary recommendations, basically according to what the law has always said. So the mayor directs him to review the disciplinary recommendations, and in cases where the chief issues no discipline, to explain why. And that's the second document on the agenda under chairperson's report, is we have a letter from the chief that is sent to the CRB saying that essentially the main points, chief of police will provide the CRB a letter of explanation if discipline falls to a lower level than the CRB recommends. So that's kind of an overview on the actions that the city is taking currently related to the citizens' agenda, the request for the CRB, and the protests. So that's continuing to develop. The one other thing I want to mention is that the governor issued an order directing all municipalities to, I think the words he used were to reimagine policing and to redesign their way of policing by, I think it's next April. So how municipalities will comply to that has not been defined. But Syracuse is assuming the governor can enforce that. The city of Syracuse will have to do something to comply with that. Any comments or questions about any of the current reform movements and where it stands? Cliff? Cliff?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, one of the things that I was concerned with was, several things. One was their compliance with Miss Relaford to get the cases to her in a timely manner, right? And then the language that the mayor is proposing that would have them comply with our recommendations. Those two things stand out to me, as far as the mayor making sure that the action that we suggest happens be taken in consideration as far as the chief of police is concerned. So those 2 points right there are the 2 points that I'm concerned with.
Thank you. So let's take those separately. The first point is essentially we've been trying to handle that sort of on a separate track. So Renette and I initiated the meetings with City Hall and Public Safety Committee and the chief over a year ago. And we've been making progress towards getting the old cases to us. We're not up to date yet. I guess I'll wait till Cliff comes back. So Cliff, in regarding your first point, we've been working on getting the old cases to us in a more timely fashion. And we've made progress. We've just got cases from 2017. I think Renette and I are in agreement that we feel like the discussions we've had with City Hall and the chief, we're not there yet, but they're getting better. We have a better relationship with Office of Professional Standards and are getting caught up on the cases. And Renette, you want to add anything on that point? Okay, so we're getting there, but we're not there yet. The great unresolved question in regard to old cases, which I've asked a number of times and never gotten an answer to, is how do we know there aren't more cases that we've never seen? And they won't respond to that. So part two of your question about having CRB cases, determinations of discipline enacted, the mayor has basically said no. He gave a response to that. And I'm trying to remember where that is, but I think there was a response that the mayor said they couldn't do that. In my mind, that's going to require looking at the whole CRB process with support from the public and the Common Council to make that happen. I think in some fashion, I think that needs to happen because the police have shown over the years that they'll ignore the recommendations. But that's an opinion, and I don't know how that's going to happen. But as I said, they should be examining everything over the next several months, and hopefully that'll be part of it. Other comments or questions about the overall reform process at this point? Okay, other items under administrators or chairperson's report. The vacancy that belongs to the second district counselor has not been filled. It's been over 60 days now that we have asked for it to be filled. We've notified them of the vacancy with no response. And so it is now up to the CRB to nominate someone and present it to the council. So any of you know of a recommendation you'd like to make, please think of those person, let me or Renette know. And in the past, we've been a little bit informal about that. Renette and I have just passed something on to the council chair. I don't know if the board feels like the board needs to approve them first or not. All the bylaws say is it comes from the board. The board can nominate to the council. So any thoughts on that? Lori?
If you guys do it, if anybody's got a name, send it in and let the council decide if there's more than one.
Okay. Other thoughts? Okay, so please, if you can think of somebody or have some connections, let us know. Okay, we have an election coming up for officers. We have a nomination that everybody was happy with for the next chair. There will also be a vice chair opening. I want to make a suggestion about how we handle those, which won't affect me because I'm not going to be the chair or the vice chair. But I've been on boards before where the process, somebody comes up with a surprise nomination or something and it gets a few votes and it gets messy. My thought is that it helps to make sure it's an open process where all board members can have some input into it. So I wanted to make a proposal about that. Cynthia, did you want to speak?
Said the chair and the vice chair. So is the vice chair becoming open because Hatisha is stepping down? Because unless I'm interpreting it incorrectly, it doesn't look like her term up the end of the year?
Thank you. Maybe I made an assumption that wasn't right. I know mine is, but I believe it's a one-year term and that person would need to be reelected. In my case, I've been the chair for 2 full years at this point, plus a little bit because I was elected in the middle of a year. So according to the bylaws, I can't have another term. Okay, so not only is my 1-year term up, but I cannot serve another term after this.
I understand that. So What
Yeah,
I
in
did was,
Hatisha's case, I'm not sure actually if she's limited from serving another term. But in any case, I believe it's a one-year term that would have to be either someone elected or Hatisha would have to be reelected.
okay, and I say that simply because when I went in and looked at, how everybody is set up, and it shows, when your term expires, it says December 2021 for Hatisha. Again, I I mean, I don't know if it's because of the position we talking about as vice chair, or are we talking about her being a member on the board?
I think I think all those dates on the chart are your term as a board member. So we'll have to thank you for bringing that up, though. I don't know whether Hatisha is limited from another year as vice chair or not. So we'll have to look at that. The suggestion I was going to make was to make sure it's an open process. A few months ago, when I reminded people that I was serving my last year, and I suggested that we ask Cynthia to nominate the replacement after speaking to whoever wanted to have input into that, and she did that. The current process has nothing described in it at all. So we could just say elections are at the September or October meeting. Anybody can nominate anybody and we'll take a vote. That's essentially what we have now because there's no process described. My only thought is to make sure that it's an open process, that we appoint somebody, one or two people, to be the nominating person or committee, and that everybody knows that those people are going to compile the nominations so that before the September meeting or the October meeting, everybody knows that if they have a suggestion, they should talk to somebody, presumably Cynthia. And that way, they know the nomination's coming up. There won't be surprises. And if somebody feels strongly that this would be the best possible person, they can say that. And Cynthia consider that. And Cynthia could come back and say, we have two nominees, take a vote. But that to me would just make the process a little bit more open than just say, at this meeting, anybody can nominate anybody. I'm not tied to it. I'm not, like I said, it's not going to affect me anyway, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, if that's we would have to take that as a vote as to which process we would like to adhere to within the upcoming recommendation. So someone would need to make a motion as to how it's going to be handled either way. And that's all I wanted to add to it, that a motion would have to be made for how the board is going to decide to do that.
Yeah, I just thought I'd formally open the floor to see if people thought it was a good idea to move in that direction or to just leave open nominations, essentially like we have. Lori?
Peter, I just want to, maybe I'm not understanding something. I before I, recommended Lori, first of all, I asked her, would she have a problem with that? I put
Right.
it out there by my recommendation, and at that point, people either voted on it or they didn't vote on it. So am I missing something?
The only thing I'm proposing that we be clear about is that people know that as of X date, the nomination process is now open. So if you as a board member care about who the next officer for this position is, get in touch with the person who's doing the nomination. Cynthia is not going to call everybody and ask them, but if you have an opinion, please contact her and make a recommendation. That's the only step I wanted to be clear about so that everybody feels like they have the right to have input into it.
If
Lori,
I can just, can I just say something?
Yeah.
Can I just say something really quickly? I just want to make sure that that's because based upon my recollection of what occurred at the last meeting, I know that Cynthia has been communicating with people because she's on the operations committee with regard to the office. But I don't think that the board voted to say, hey, we want Cynthia to be the person to make the recommendations. So that would need to be taken as a vote for Cynthia to be the person to be making the recommendations as to who is going to be the vice chair or the chair. But I don't recall that happening. So before we can just say that Cynthia needs to make that recommendation, the board needs to make a motion for that to occur first. If not, then we continue with the same process that we have been, as you talked about, where when we're discussing in January's meeting, who is going to, who would like to be the chair, and then the board members raise their hand and say, I nominate such and such. We have to figure out which one we're going to do. But I don't recall that it was voted on specifically that Cynthia is supposed to be making the recommendation for the board. I believe the conversation was because she was on the operations committee, she was supposed to talk to people and inform them about the fact that the chair position was going to be open, but not that she was going to be the lone person to make recommendations.
And I think you're right that in the current process, anybody could make a nomination. And there are two parts to this. That do we want to make sure it's open to everybody and they could contact somebody? And secondly, is who is that person going to be that they contact? I think Lori had her hand up, and then Cliff. Lori, did you want to speak?
I was just going to say that I think that your suggestion is a good one, and hopefully you can send an email to everyone, since not everyone's here tonight, if this goes through, and let them know that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Cliff?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What I think we should do as a board, as a whole, right? We should vote as a board, as a whole, for the new chairperson and vice chairperson. Okay.
Yes.
I think that's how we went about it in the past. So I think that every board member should have, a say as far as that's concerned. Cynthia included. And she would take the lead on reiterating, what our decision is as far as who that person would be. As far as being the chair and the vice chair. And I'd be willing to step up, to any role as far as that's concerned, for the record.
Okay, so Cliff, are you saying you do not think it's a good idea to have nominations go through one person for a period of time?
Yes, it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Okay.
I'm just saying, the entire
the whole
board
finally votes. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, what if I do this? Since we barely have a quorum tonight, what if I write this up, put it in an email so we can vote on it next time? Because it's critical, I think, that how we handle these things. And I'm only bringing this up because I've been on boards in the past where people have abused the process, and somebody has lined up a couple of votes ahead of time and pushed something through without everybody having the opportunity to have input into it. So I just want to make sure everybody does have that opportunity. Okay, so I'll write something up. We can consider it next time. Last thing I have to say, and I'm actually going to turn it over to Annette for this.
Peter, before
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is Cynthia again.
Cynthia.
Before you write something up, can you confirm as of the status in regards to the vice chair? So we know.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
We'll look it up and see if Hatisha is limited and in what terms she's on. So.
I think Lori's looking that up. I think Lori's looking that up. Were you?
Okay. Okay, so I'll make sure I send we confirm that. I'll consult with Renette and make sure we're interpreting it the same way and then send something out. Okay, so I had a note, Renette, when you and I talked, to remember to talk about the hearings, but I'm going to turn that over to you for part of your report. So we're on administrator's report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of this beautiful August day to speak with us this evening, and thanks for the public for coming. I do want to let you know about the terms that we currently have. So the 4th District counselor appointee, the term is up in December of this year. Peter's term is up in December. And Dana's term is up in December, just so you're aware. The other terms end in 2021. Clifford's term was up in December of 2019. But the way that the board works is that unless you resign or they reappoint somebody else, you're able to stay on the board up until that time frame for which you can't be on the board any longer. So 2 consecutive terms, and then you would have to kind of sit out. So as of right now, that's what we have. Give me one moment. Hatisha needs to say something. Hold on a second. Okay, unmute yourself. Let me see which one she might be. Hold on. Is this Hatisha? Nope. Hello, caller 7. You're unmuted.
This is Yvonne Renette.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Caller number 6.
Hello?
Okay, Hatisha,
Hello,
go ahead.
Renette?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, sorry. Yeah, so I was just saying regarding the nominations, that someone may be nominated and may not feel that they're up to it. So it should be clear that however which way we do, if we do decide to nominate as many people as we want, that whoever is nominated, they should be aware that you're being nominated.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So, and as Peter mentioned, the 2nd district is still open. And that term was supposed to end in December of last year as well. So this person would be in when they're appointed. They would be coming in, and basically it's going to be a start of a new term, but it's just going to be kind of odd how they come in. So just so people are aware. So please, anyone who's listening on the line, the 2nd Common Council District is typically the areas on the west side and part of the end of Tipperary Hill, I think somewhere close to there. So you can reach out to our office and let us know if you're interested, and email a resume to crb@syrgov.net, or reach out to Common Councilor Pat Hogan, who is the counselor for that particular district. All right, moving along.
Renette, one detail is that I think common councilors generally prefer to nominate someone from their own district, but that is not a requirement if they can't find somebody.
Yes, this particular district counselor made mention of that, and that's why I'm kind of focusing on that portion, is that he wanted someone from to live in his district to be his appointee. All right, so activity report, the CRB received 2 new cases in the month of July. Our total number of cases for 2020 so far is 24. Yes, that's low compared to where we usually are, but we are in a pandemic, and the office is still closed without plans for the office to open up until most likely October, meaning that the building is still closed to the public. As of right now, we are taking appointments for people who need to schedule appointments for them to come to the office. We can do that and meet you there. And we can have an appointment that way, but the building is still closed to the public. Also, in terms of the conferences, so currently our national conference is being held virtually. And I have links to attend those conferences. And so we'll be able to, hopefully I should be able to share those links with you if you want to attend them as well. So just look out for those type of emails with some links. Also, the DAGO conference I just finished was very good. I believe I sent everybody the training manual from that in an email. So you should have received that. And you should be able to look at that at your leisure and utilize it in a means to think about the cases that we review on a regular monthly basis. So you have that. Our interns from CNY Works, Vian and Tatiana, will be ending next week. They have been doing a lot of research for us as to what's been going around the country related to the protests and things of that nature. I've been bringing in newspaper articles that have been appearing in the newspaper over these last few months, and they've been able to cut those out so that we're keeping track of those things. They have some suggestions with regard to the website. They have some suggestions with regard to our brochures. So we'll be taking all of those things into consideration when we're talking about revamping those things. We do have a meeting next week related to the new website. So we will be looking at those, what types of things we can do differently on our CRB website. And this time we will have total control over the website in terms of we would be the ones uploading things of that nature. So we won't have to wait for anybody else to upload anything to the website. That's one of the new changes that is going to occur with the new website, which we think will be beneficial for us. I know I sent an email with regard to our 2019 report. I have a meeting in the middle on August 19th in which we're going to discuss our 2019 report. There were some questions related to the recommendations that we consistently reiterate in our reports, and also some of the numbers. So I decided that, we can have a discussion with regard to that, and we can not publish it on the website until we have those discussions, just so everybody is clear with regard to that. So in terms of hearing, as Peter talked about, last month we talked about how the building, of course, is closed, and currently hearings would need to be held in a via WebEx form, just like we're doing currently. So the hearing would be held, it wouldn't be recorded as this meeting is being recorded, but it would be held in a manner through this platform. And so we were suggesting that if a complainant did not have this technology on their cell phone, because we would want them to be on video mode. We would not want them to appear just by telephone. Now, when we have a person that's in a correctional facility, we have done hearings with them on telephone if we are not able to go to the facility, and that's a different type of circumstance. But if a person is here locally and can make it, we would use our hearings room as the place for the complainant to set up with their support system. And then in our office, we would have the rest of the board panel together in our office so that then they could view it via WebEx that way, and we could still do social distancing. If the complainant has an attorney, the complainant could be in their attorney's office and utilize WebEx in that form and do it that way. That would also go along with the officers that have been subpoenaed. They could appear by, whatever form in a conference room with their attorney or something of that nature. But we would want those parties to be video rather than a call in. And so that was something that we need to discuss and see if that's the way the board would like to move forward. Because as you know, you've been voting on cases to go to hearings, and hearings have not been held. But we need to kind of catch up, or else we're going to really be swamped when it's time to do, when it's time for everything to be back up and running. So if we could discuss that, that would be great. But those are the proposals. And if you have another proposal, let me know and I'll figure out how we might be able to work that as well. Any comments?
I just have a comment. I think the last one that you said with the complainant and his or her attorney in the hearing room, you mean at 201 on Washington? Okay,
Yes.
and then
If necessary, or they could be at their attorney's office, whatever one kind of works better for them.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Renee, what proportion of our clients do you think have an attorney?
That's going to be a small portion. And that's why I say that if they don't have an attorney and they just need to utilize the hearings room for the technology, they could come into the office and utilize the hearings room for the technology. So we can still utilize it in that form. And if a person wanted to, with their attorney, come into the hearings room, that's, that would be our place. So I'm just kind of using that as an alternative. But if not, then they could meet at their attorney's office and, do it that way, or they could, be at home. But we need to make sure that they're on video. We need to be able to see them while they are providing information to the hearing panel. And that's the key part of it.
Right. And how would you picture it working? So the complainant's in the hearing room at the office with or without their attorney. And would each of us then be on a Zoom call?
Yes, the hearing panel would then either, if you needed to, you could be at home like you're doing now, or if you need be, you could be in our office, like in the office with me. So we could still be, and we have the opportunity to use the computer that's by the intern desk and my computer in my office and be able to conduct it that way. And then if the other person, the witnesses and things of that nature, we can utilize it in that fashion as well and still be able to maintain social distancing. So, yes, Cliff?
So I think another suggestion would be to use what we call at the iLab. I think that would be a better situation for us to use, because when we're doing hearings, I think we need to be there in person, and we would be able to do social distancing within that iLab. It's called the iLab, right?
Yes.
I think we will be able to do our social distancing with compliance, wearing our mask, and have our spacing within the iLab room, as opposed to trying to do the hearings online. I think that would be more difficult for us. So I think a suggestion of doing it in the iLab room for the hearings would be a better fit for us to do the hearings, because the hearings are a very, very important aspect of the CRB. So I think we would want to do those in person as opposed to trying to do them online.
Another option is there is a conference room on the first floor of our office building. And then we maybe also be able to do it in the atrium. I mean, that's
Right.
a big enough space as well.
Absolutely.
So we can have those options if you feel like that would make you more comfortable. I'm trying to consider, your health and safety and things of that nature. I mean, there's typically not more than 6 people at the time of a hearing. So I think that we could, potentially be able to space out in one of those areas and be fine. But I just didn't know how anybody would feel. So we can look at the iLab, we can look at the conference room on the first floor, and we can look at, and then if people are still feeling, some kind of way, then we can look at the other option that I mentioned. So we can look at both of those things. Does that sound like a plan to to move into and look into.
Sounds good.
Yeah. How big is that first floor conference room, Renette? I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's right off of where the security desk area is, and I think it sits at least 10 or 12 chairs. So somewhere around 10. So I think that that's doable. And then again, I can look into the atrium. I mean, the only thing about the atrium is that everybody could look in there and see because it's all glass. And that's the concern that I have with regard to the atrium, where the other space would not be as open like that. So that just in case somebody did not feel comfortable, that kind of thing. So.
And the iLab that Cliff brought up, that's where we've had our board meetings in the past, right? On the second
Yes.
floor, whatever it is? Yeah.
Yes.
I like that suggestion because it's if you have 6 people, you can get 6 or 8 feet between people. In a 10-seat conference room, you're not going to do that.
But the only issue with regard to that is because it's City Hall. They typically know about when our meetings are going to be, and security is usually there in the building, where when we're having hearings in our building, we don't really require that. I think it's kind of a different space. So I would have to work and see if that would make somebody have to work overtime in order to be in the building, because it's City Hall, it's not City Hall Commons. So I would have to look into that as well. So I'll make the necessary phone calls with regard to that.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Hey, Ned, I just gonna say while you're looking, you're doing your investigation in regards to that, I really would like to, if you had opportunity to again peek at the conference room on the first floor in the common building there, because I think that would be, if it's a conference room that holds 10 to 12 people, then that should be sufficient. When, like you said, we normally don't have more than 6 people at a hearing.
Yeah, and we could always use that hallway area for people to be waiting in, you know what I mean, when it's time, so they wouldn't have to be sitting on top of each other, but then they would still have privacy to which they're not sitting right out there, that kind of thing. So, but I'll look into all of these. I'll take a picture of the conference room on the first floor, send it out to people so you can see what it looks like, and then I'll make a phone call with regard to the iLab. All right, I believe that is the end of my report, unless anybody has any questions.
How'd it go with the new recruits?
Oh, hold on one second. Today, in executive session, we're going to review 4 cases, just so everybody knows that that's part of my activity. The new recruits I was going to talk about under community outreach. So if we want to skip to that point, we can do that. So the new recruits were good. And they asked questions, which was good. I thought that it went well. I thought that it was, again, I always preface it as it's a good idea for them to meet us before they're getting a letter, so that they can hear who we are and what we do and get an understanding of that before it's at that time. I don't think that that's a great introduction. So we were able to do that. I believe it was probably 25 of them, maybe roughly. They were in the same room that we were in when we did the civilian academy. They had their mask on and I had mine on, and your presentation went well, Peter. It was just enough. And then I kind of had more talking opportunities than I did doing a big presentation, because I was kind of going through some things given the fact of the state of the city currently. So it was a good opportunity to just talk about, the relationship between SPD and the community and what's going on right now in the community with regard to the protests, with regard to police and community relations. So it was actually a more personable conversation more than anything else. And it allowed them, I think, to feel comfortable asking more questions, because it was just like a discussion about what we do and why we're here, things of that nature. And I kind of explained to them about, the different sides of town and that this being our city, you know what I mean, in terms of me born and raised here, and things of that nature, and that kind of perspective of where I'm coming from. So I think that it was a good opportunity for them to see that.
Thank you. Sounds good. Just so you know, I was not comfortable being in a room with 25 people inside, so I recorded a short PowerPoint, some of which you've seen parts of before. It's just about 6 minutes of me doing a general introduction to the CRB. And then Renette took over from there in person. So, and that's certainly available if anybody would like to see it. We can put it up for you. Cliff?
And Cliff, talk about the community service event that you and I did yesterday. Go ahead.
Before that, I wanted to say that I would love to be there for one of those academy presentations. Please sign me up. Okay, I want to express the point of we want you to do your job, but we want the misconduct to stop. But I promise you, Miss Relaford, you've schooled me very well and you've educated me along the lines of how to articulate that properly and to make sure that my conduct when addressing the situation will be proper. And me and you'll go through a rehearsal if you want, but I would very much like to be there for that next time we have that. Okay.
All right. That kind of
snuck
up on us in terms of the time frame. We kind of got it, and then it was like, oh, we're scrambling, and then because of COVID, we're trying to figure out how big is this room going to be? Are we able to, get enough space? So I know, Cliff, we will get you there.
Right.
We will get you there.
I want to see that one on tape.
Yes. Far as the outreach, I think it went very well. Renette did a great job with informing the youth from the housing program. Thank you to Dana for inviting us. It was great. We both, got a chance to speak with the youth. I think it went very well, and I would like to do more of that throughout the community. I would like for us to do more outreach work as far as the youth are concerned, like Renette was speaking on, as far as, educating the youth on knowing your rights and different things and holding forums so they understand those aspects of dealing, with the CRB, because a lot of them don't know. So I think we should, in the future, look forward to doing some more of those type of things with the youth. Thank you once again, Dana. I think that was very nice to put that together. Great job.
Dana, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, cool. No, it went really well. The kids were excited about it afterwards too. A couple of them asked me things after. It was very impressive, and I think that we will have more opportunities at Syracuse Housing to reach out to different groups of children too. So I look forward to that. And I thank you both very much. It was awesome.
Thank you, Dana. The board development and training, that's the next item on there. I think that we need to figure out something, and we should try to figure it out soon as to what we're going to do related to training, because it's already the 8th month of the year, and pretty much I know we've been sending a lot of information to you related to training, things that I've been looking up and being provided, but past that point we have not had an opportunity to do a formal training. So if we should probably do some sort of doodle poll and see when we can do something, and again have the opportunity for Bob Stewart to come, or you do something else, but we should do some formal training, especially if we're going to get a new board member coming up as well. We need to make sure that they're not long in the term before we do another training.
Cynthia?
That would be a good time to use the atrium.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. So yes, Peter, if you can do some sort of doodle poll for something coming around in September, somewhere around in there, that would be great for us to have something in the works.
Do we want to invite Stewart to come to town like we were planning originally and just have a room where we have enough space, like the atrium?
Yes, I can reach out to him and see, when. I'll reach out to him and get some dates, and then we'll include those on the doodle poll so that you'll have dates that he's available.
Because I think his topic, well, I think we all appreciated when he came and spoke to us briefly at a board meeting, but his topic would have to do with implementing the recommendations of 21st century policing. The Ferguson report is very much in line with, where police departments ought to be going. I think it's a very positive thing to see. So, yeah, if you want to get some September dates, let's go from there, and I'll do a poll as soon as we do that.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Okay. And we have a government relations meeting coming up on August 15th, Renette?
We do. It's going to be August the 15th at, 1 second, and I'll give you the exact time. You should have received a WebEx invitation already. For those that typically participate in it, you should have received it. And it is going to be, it's going to be August 19th at 2:00. And we had our most recent meeting on July 1, but we talked about that last meeting. But yeah, we have a meeting coming up on August the 19th. And please make sure that you attend, those who have been attending those meetings. Oh, what I wanted to mention. So the mayor's office does some community walks. They call them power walks in the community. And the CRB is going to join them. In those power walks, we talked about it at today's conference. And we'll be joining the next one, and I'll have some brochures and stuff to pass out, but just, being out there showing solidarity between the Syracuse, the city of Syracuse departments and things of that nature. So we'll be all out there together. And I believe the next one is like next week or so. And so, I'll let you know when it is. But it's going to be like the mayor, the police chief, the fire chief, and other department heads from the city, all going out to a particular community and doing some walks. So we'll be involved in that. So I just wanted to let you guys know. It's actually going to be the 19th at 4. So it's going to be just after. So we'll be done with our 2:00 meeting and we'll go out at that point in time. I'm not sure what neighborhood it's going to be in, but as soon as I know, I'll just let you know that we'll be out there. Interfaith Works reached out and they are doing a community dialogue with regard to the discussions, their police community dialogue. They want to have like a circle discussion with other people in the community that do different work related to that. So it's going to be August the 20th. And I'm going to attend that meeting. It's going to be via WebEx. And provide them with my input as to the police community dialogues. So just so you know that that's going to be coming up as well. I think that might be it. I know that we should look out for and as soon as I get a notice, I'll let you know, but I'm hoping the Right to Know Act. Once the council's attorney has been able to review that, I hope that that will be on the agenda coming sometime soon. So look out for that and look out for anything related to a public safety committee meeting coming up. So just, be aware that with everything going on, there could be, meetings that pop up, all of a sudden that we should make our presence at.
Okay. I think that concludes our committee reports. We don't have any community organizations here, so I think we're finished with the board part of the meeting. Any members of the public would like to speak, please unmute yourself and identify yourself.
This is Yvonne Griffin.
Sorry, I had trouble hearing that.
This is Yvonne Griffin.
Yvonne Griffin, would you like to speak to the board?
Yes, I have a question. So, my question is the CRB
Yvonne, we're having trouble hearing you.
Are you guys able to hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Is the CRB planning to present to the Common Council anything about hiring new investigators, the second opinion doctor? Because I know that in 2013, they was actually supposed to get money for the 2014 budget year, but I know that the Common Council was the ones who didn't sign off on it for it to take place and everything. So I just want to know, because it's only Rainette that is basically investigating these cases, and right now she has 24 cases, she says, so far this year. She's only one person. So for someone like me who has a lot of cases at the CRB, like some of my cases haven't been heard yet. And because of the Bi-City ordinance law that was passed in 2013 to go ahead and reopen up cases that wasn't investigated right, I just feel, are you guys going to ask for the money from the city to go ahead and get the investigators? Because Rainette needs them. That's a definite. And we do need the second opinion doctor to go ahead and look at, all the complaining, all the complaints, doctor statements, the x-rays and stuff like that. So is the CRB planning on doing that?
So Yvonne, we do have money in the budget for the private investigator. Currently, they allot $5,000 to be utilized for the private investigator. And we do have money for the medical examiner. We just have not hired one officially, but we do have the money available to do that.
Right. So if I remember correctly, when Joseph was there, the money is, yes, the money is there. But the issue was when Joseph was there is he had to find 3 medical professional people and give whatever information to the Common Council. He did that. He also found a couple investigators. So basically, when is this going to happen? Because I don't think that, like you said, when the COVID breaks and your office opens again, you're going to be swamped with so many cases that only one person is not going to be able to investigate them.
So
when do you guys plan on finding the right candidates and then presenting them to the Common Council? Because the Common Council got to vote to say yes on the ones that you guys want to hire, right?
So the issue is that anytime you're ready to hire anybody for the city, you have to get 3 comparison bids. And then they're going to look and see whether or not in the database they have anybody that's less than the 3 bids that you propose. And usually the lowest bidder is the person who gets it. So as of right now, I did look at the information that was previously gathered with regard to the medical examiner. And I've had some research done for medical examiners, but we may have to get a committee together with regard to the CRB board members to call those people and see because we did have an intern doing some of those telephone calls, asking questions related to that. But we have not been able to formalize that process again because of time constraints and things of that nature. So we have done some of the legwork and we just need to finalize that part.
Okay, so my next question, because you brought the juveniles up, so my next question would be, say my son was to go to Hillbrook and the police would stop him. How would we go to make the complaint? Like, how would Eric be able to make the complaint? Would he be able to go ahead and call you from Hillbrook, or like?
Yes, he could call me from Hillbrook and then I could make arrangements. If Hillbrook was accepting visitors, I could make arrangements with Hillbrook to do either some sort of video conference with him. I could also utilize their ability to maybe, I could send him a letter with the complaint form in it and utilize the people at the facility that I am aware of and see how they would go about assisting him with completing that form. But I do believe if he's still underage, if he's under the age of 18, you would still have to make the complaint with him, but it would have to be he would have to provide the facts of the incident if you were not there.
Right. How would we? Okay. I think that there should be something to where the CRB, because sometimes the
We lost you. We can't hear anything. Okay. I'm gonna move on to the next caller. I think we lost her.
So do we have another citizen that wanted to speak? Renette, you're muted.
I think we have Joe Bennett on here. Joe Bennett, can you unmute yourself if you would like to speak? Okay. All right. I know number 6 is Hatisha. Caller number 8. Caller number 8.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello, this is Mustafa.
Hi, Mustafa. Would you
Yeah,
like
I'm
to
just,
say anything to the CRB?
I'm just listening, and just saying, I appreciate all y'all, the work that y'all doing, and I know up under these difficult times, it's kind of like harder, but I really appreciate, the work that y'all doing.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
Hey, and hope everybody is doing all right.
Thank you. You too.
All right, I'll go ahead and mute you again, Mustafa. Mr. Bennett.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak?
No, thanks. Sorry, I missed a little bit of it. I was on a couple other calls, but
Okay.
Thank you.
We just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity if you'd like. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yep.
All right, Peter.
Okay. I would appreciate if a board member would make a motion for us to go into executive session to talk about our cases. Cliff's made the motion. Cynthia has seconded. Okay, so we are moving from the board meeting into executive session. Renette's going to turn off the tape.